So the question there is, how do you keep it engaged? You can give them 15 different workflows to choose from, and it's inundates the user and say, okay, screw that, I'm not using that. How do you make it curated? And that's where a lot of experience from what are you trying to solve, what jobs are to be done, right back to the fact of what has influenced me. And then how do you simplify that? And it has to be as simple that you say, what's the value that you're adding? And that's the value that you're adding.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Particle Accelerator podcast, where we talk to future thinking business leaders about how to accelerate business and grow their team. I'm here with Aditya. Aditya, could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. This is Aditya Rastogi. I'm a sales leader. I've sold AI-led solutions for software as a service companies, SaaS companies for past 20 years. And I believe in leading sales with metrics and emotions. So kind of a balance of that. And I've led different aspects of sales, from partnership, business development, go-to-market, and made it more kind of process and metric oriented. And that has that has led to my success. So great to be talking to everyone.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, man. It's good to have one of our sales friends on here. We've had some really cool science people, and it's going to be great to dig into.
You talked about science a little bit, and I would like to add that my background is in data science. So I was doing AI before AI was the buzzword. Right? Neural network, fuzzy logic. I was doing that in school, and after that, many quarter of a century ago, and then kind of continued that in my professional building applications, retail specific applications for technology companies, and then since then used that has helped me brought those insights, analytics into the sales process, and that has been some interesting journey.
Really cool. Yeah, yesterday I was talking to scientists about microbes and using AI and machine learning to understand different genetic data sets. And so that's what I meant by, like, it was pretty heavy. So cool to be talking to you. So to get started, what was your first job? So for me, the first way I made $1 was I had a paper route. But for you, what was your first job?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I don't know what my first job was. The first paying job was different than my uh, my parents. I grew up in India, so my parents had a hardware home construction a shop, kind of mom and pop shop. And I started that. And I was, when I was about 13 years old, I was asked to take care of the business for a little bit while they were away. So if they weren't going out of town, I would be kind of in charge of selling the products, right? So think about the iron bars or kind of the construction cement that is used for home building. So it was not paid, right? Kind of, you can say.
Yeah.
Payment was in different ways. And then as I came here, so then my journey was, I came to US to do my master's in industrial engineering and operations research. This was many years ago, and at Arizona State. And there, my first role was at Schlotzsky's. And so I was the cashier there. So I would say that was my first paying job. And that was interesting. I find myself in Austin, Texas, and where Schlotzsky's was founded. So interesting events.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I definitely, after my paper route journey, I liked during college, I could pick up a job at a pizza place. I, could like stretch the doughs and do the spinning of the pizza doughs. Yeah. So
Very fancy.
Many a pizza place as I moved throughout my college years. So really cool. Well, what toy or hobby did you have as a child that inspired what you do career-wise today?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? So hobbies, if I reflect, is I used to play right, all kinds of sports. Cricket is one of the sports that I grew up playing, but kind of as a hobby, not something serious. But then what I really liked was disassembling things. So I would take any uh, appliance and I would open it up very well. The challenge was putting it back together. So,
Right.
and then I would get into trouble, all kinds of troubles. But I think the challenge or the thing that inspired me was solving a problem, right? So I would open it because something has gone wrong, and you're trying to resolve it. So I was like, let me get my hand dirty and try to solve it, resolve it, even though sometimes, most of the times, it didn't work. But what my intention was, how do I go in, get my hands in, and try to resolve it, right? And then kind of as I grew up, it's like you can get help, but at least the first thing is let me get my hand dirty, get hand in and try to understand what the problem is, be there, kind of doer, and then kind of seek help to go there. So, and I kind of drive that in technology as well. I remember a situation where our company built a product. It was kind of latest workflows with at that time the Ruby on the Rails. Ruby on Rails was kind of that latest tech, very fancy, and we had a pretty good workflow and good solution. We took it to the kind of customers and said, "This is the AI-driven results," and they said, "I don't trust it." So it's like, okay, so we built all that. So then kind of I went in and kind of looked into the data, gave them something that they could relate to, and that's where kind of it worked out, and they started seeing the value. And I continue to do that, is a problem solving mentality, try to get in even though not really sure what I'm going in. I'm really good at if it is not well structured, I do really good to kind of make sense out of it and drive value.
Yeah, that's cool. I can definitely relate. I completely destroyed a toaster, my mom's toaster. I took it down to its smallest part, and yeah, I could not get it back together.
Those are the most fun when you're trying to struggle. It's like, yeah, if you open this, then you can open that. It's like, okay, what do you do after that? Putting it
Yeah,
back to
and I can also relate. I spent quite a bit of my time as a Rubyist, writing programs in Ruby, and really uh, enjoyed just the framework, just how comprehensive the framework was with Ruby, and then looked for that feature richness in other frameworks. And so, I think Ruby on Rails was just like this great example of like an all you can eat, like everything was there for you, reduced some choices, but gave you, all the things to make setting up a platform really streamlined. What was your favorite and least favorite course in school?
That's interesting. That I would start with least favorite, right? So my back again kind of talked about industrial engineering. Yeah, I did my master's, MBA as well after that. But kind of the most least favorite, I'll start with that, was numerical optimization, and that was talked about nonlinear optimization. So I was not going to take that course. I'm a PhD dropout as well. So I started my PhD and I was like, okay, this is not, I don't see myself finishing this. I started with industrial engineering optimization, and then I was kind of the stock markets and just markets in general kind of fascinated me. I didn't understand it very well, but it just fascinated me. So I kind of went to the business school, spoke to the kind of professor there and said, I want to learn about markets. So I took us a finance 701 course, not knowing much about finance. And first, I was kind of, I was like, what the heck am I doing? I first two exams, I was like, I don't think I can do it. My professor said, keep it up, keep up, kind of keep on it. You have to finish the course. I was like, okay, I don't have any other options, kind of, and then eventually ace the class. So that it was the most tough class that I've taken. The best class that is taken is in my not during the school, but after I took a course from Harvard about disruptive technologies and disruptive strategies from the professor Christensen Clayton, And here's some amazing the views on how the market works, how and essentially life works, right? He talked about the concept of jobs to be done, and then kind of where he inspired me to read his book, which was how would you measure your life? So takes the life concept and then applies it to business as well, and that's where kind of you connect that what you're doing in life, what you're doing in business, how do you align those so that you kind of are driven every day when you wake up to do the right thing, and you get value out of it.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of like OKR framework and whatnot. And when I learned about this in one of my companies, I put all my teenagers on OKR. So I was like, hey, how are you going to measure, like, what's your goal? And then how are you going to measure your progress toward the goal? And, one of my sons was like, I want to be a professional video gamer. Okay, well, that's fine. That's an interesting objective, but how would you measure your progress towards that? And, it took him a long time thinking about it. But he's like, well, I guess I'd have to play competitively more often. I'm like, well, how much time do you play video games? And he gave me that number of hours per week. Like, okay, well, how many of those hours are competitive hours? He's like, well, none of them right now. Like, okay, well, how many of those hours could you shift to playing in a league or in a competitive? And so, yeah, he shifted just so much to realize that that's not something that he really wanted to do. But without the tracking of it, then our goals are just dreams or wishes.
Exactly.
They're not like actually, they have not actually become part of us. And so, really cool. Oh, well, what quote from a famous person lives in your mind rent free?
Yeah, so that I would say kind of every problem can be solved if you put your mind to it, right? One thing that I do not remember who said that, but it's not me. And other one is that definitely I think of it every day is from Martin Luther King is if you and I'm not doing justice in terms of quote. I'll paraphrase what it meant was uh, if you're not helping others, what's the purpose of life, right? So every day that I'm kind of doing things, the idea is how do you help others to get value, right? We are living this life, and the idea is how do you help yourself and help others.
Yeah, totally. It takes a lot of personal development, right, to actually um, shift that. I find that if you're seeking approval from others, if you need to be valued, right, then it's hard for you to give value. So I love that. I love that thought. Cool. What do you feel was the greatest invention or discovery in the past 300 years?
Well, I don't know about kind of there's a lot to consider, right? But I'm more weighted in the recent history. So obviously, iPhone has changed our life. The next invention that would change our life is self-driven cars. It would totally transform how we think, how we live our life, our daily activities, and everything else that we do.
Yeah.
So
That's
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure past 300 years, I could not relate to. Yes, I'm sure there's
right.
electricity has been some pretty amazing, has changed our life. But just what I've experienced life, everything else, I'm assuming it's given from
Yeah.
there.
Have you tried a self-driving car yet?
No, I've not, and I'm kind of excited to sit in Waymo. I think they stopped in Austin. They were testing it out for. I think they are paused for now.
Yeah. Yeah. Couple of friends have mentioned that they've tried the S drive mode in their Tesla, and that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, sorry, I
Yeah.
misunderstood. You're talking about self-driven cars so completely, but yeah, I've driven some kind of they say pilot assist, right, where they kind of help with cruise as well as the yeah. So tried that. I don't think I trust it yet. or anywhere close. It's kind of good to have that additional assistance. That's about it, I would say.
Yeah, I I drove a BMW once that had it wasn't nearly as much as the Tesla S Drive mode, but at least I could set a speed that I desired to go. It was like assisted cruise, right? Where I could set a speed I desired to go. And then as I would come up on a car, it would match that car's speed. And it was like effortless, like absolutely effortless. I still needed to be in control of the vehicle. Um, but the lane assist was still
Exactly.
pretty amazing. Like it was keeping itself between the lines, and then it was regulating itself based on the car in front. So all I really had to do was just kind of sit there
Exactly.
and get it into position. I mean, that was pretty advanced. I
It's
mean,
definitely getting better, right? I think they started a few years back, about 5 or 8 years back, right? And kind of it's just where I've tried the newest and some of the older times as well. It's definitely got much better, but there's still that's where the risk is, right? If you think it can do it, and the moment you trust it and it does not, there's too much at risk.
yeah, for sure. Well, cool. So, what tech trend has significantly impacted you or your industry, and how has your company responded?
Yeah, so definitely the big buzz is Gen AI, right? So, but we're talking about Gen AI, it's about conversational analytics, where I believe there's a lot of impact. Right, I think conversational analytics, from because I'm a big analytics buff, in terms of there's a lot of information to be gained from the data, and you can kind of slice and dice. I've spent a lot of time with Tableau and kind of visualizing insights as a like consulting teams and consulting projects. But taking that with conversational analytics, what you can do is you can take that and do at scale, right? So companies hire consulting firms to give them insights, to get insights from the data, what they would not do. But now you can do that at scale. You still need kind of the business uh, domain experience and knowledge, but now you can kind of productize and create a system where you can get those insights and recommendations a lot quicker and at scale. So I believe that is where uh, kind of that has done when the industry is shifting. And then if you layer it with LLMs and kind of Gen AI, this is where you can kind of make it more user friendly from a UX perspective, how you engage with the underlying concept. I think uh, is where you can do it at. And there are a few companies that are getting there, is because there's a lot of contextual data that you have to gather at scale. But I think there's a lot of scale challenges, and there are a few companies that are doing pretty well. Companies like Data Stacks and others. But I think it's not done across the industry yet. But I see big potential there.
Hmm, that's cool. Um, well, what are three technology innovations you are betting on to drive your business growth going forward?
Right. So one would be uh, definitely, and I would not say it's a technological innovation, but that would help drive that. One is integrated tools, right? So when you think about, given my focus on the sales for last few many years, there's a lot of systems that are available for teams to use, but they're not really connected. Salesforce would say they are kind of, they can integrate with anything, any external tool, but is it right? Is the information flowing, or is it just the data flowing? So you need to architect a solution where you're connected with kind of your outbound technology, your market research technology, your uh, your ad systems, your CRM, Salesforce, HubSpot, and then that is making decisions. So I think integrating this with the uh, Gen AI layer on top can automate a lot of this go-to-market activities, can automate a lot of this business development cycles. Right now, businesses are spending a lot of time and energy for right reasons, because There's no other options right now. But slowly, there's so much curation that can be done, automation with intense signal that can can give more time to companies to strategize rather than on the execution.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the number of emails that I'm receiving, just even in that, like in my inbox, there are intents that I have. There are people who, even if they were emailing me cold, because of my intent, I would want to talk to them.
Right.
But there's also a whole lot of things that I have no intention around, and I want that stuff to be discarded and blocked out.
Right.
So it does seem like, so I'm super interested in what you had to say. And I think even just the idea of improving the email experience, could be huge there. Like, I intend to find a technology partner, or I intend to, um, I intend to buy a house. Okay, well, if I know your intent, then can I do a good job filtering your email for you? Probably, right? Probably then majority of, but even like, around like my LinkedIn messaging, right? There are certain people that I would love to talk to, and many people that I would love to just give a quiet, or, a polite, no, thank you. But to do all of that, to spend that time, when it really could be data driven, it's probably pretty straightforward.
Yeah, definitely. And I think so that was one. You said three, so I think I combined
Sure.
one and two. Third one, I think there's a lot to be said how enterprises exchange data, right? So we have uh, three big clouds: Azure, Google, and Microsoft, and AWS, right? And then there's a bunch of kind of solution providers who are ingesting data, sending the data back and forth, and that creates kind of cost as well as inefficiencies. Um, I was working closely with Google, and Google has something called Analytics Hub, which is, and others cloud providers have something similar, but where it is going is now you can have one data set, give access to whoever needs to have without ever transferring data. And that is huge in so many aspects. Now, this is a way you can kind of multiple things. If your internal for your internal ecosystem, you can have one data system where everything is connected, and some people are trying to get there. It's not there yet, but think about taking that model across the enterprises with the right level of security, because security is the key component. But now you have the efficiency and availability of data that people are not used to and imagine, and that created amazing use cases and value for the businesses.
Interesting. Um, well, give me an example of how this would work. Can you give me a
Yeah,
practical?
yeah. So let's talk about the retailer, right? So retailers kind of have CPGs, right? They have they talk to hundreds of vendors, right? So Johnson and Johnson, Procter and Gamble. Let's say retailers are have the data from their for their transaction system that they sold 500 units of bag of chips in a certain store in a given week. The way they transact, how the P&G would know is either they have kind of curated set of data that the retailer is sending them, or uh, accessing that data for the retailer. Now, retailer can say, "This is my POS data in this cloud environment that is being updated, and this is my system. You come in as a P&G or Johnson and Johnson, you come in and you have access to this portion of the data for this time frame at real time, right? So we talk about APIs and data transferring through APIs, real time. That all goes away. Now you have access to that data without data ever moving, right? So think about the efficiencies that you're creating, the ease that you're creating, the simplification that you're creating, and at scale.
Hmm. Wouldn't that require something like blockchain or something to describe all of that data, like to tag it for an abstraction of that magnitude?
Not really, right? Because, for example, BigQuery has kind of, I'll give you an example of BigQuery or Redshift or anything, right? They can handle large set of data. The question is, why would a retailer allow someone else to access the data within their cloud environment, right? So that's where safety and security comes in. Is I don't want to give you access. I'm very protective, right? Especially in this day and age. And now these cloud providers are providing tools where they are managing that access level. They're giving controls to the level, and obviously with a lot of trust built in, a lot of factors built in, that this person can have this level of access to your data set, and the data set does not move.
Mm,
So now I think those are the level of kind of technological innovation that would allow easy access to data across the enterprises.
right. Right. And to, in your analogy, even some level of segmentation, right, built
Right,
into the
right, right,
access.
right. You share the data, what you want to share with that set of folks, right?
Mhm.
Because you don't want to share everything with everyone.
Yeah, that's really cool. Um, Going back to conversational analytics, I'm not sure I completely understand that concept. So it sounds like it's an approach to study some level of the social interaction. But explain that a little bit better. I don't
Sure.
know. I should have asked you
So
before, but I'm
yeah,
curious.
definitely. I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about retailers as well, right? So they have transaction data, right? Thousands and 100,000 people are Walmart, right? Lot of interactions happening online, a lot of interactions happening in store. There are a bunch of information sitting there. Uh, how would a category manager, right, say that which products are trending, or which products are trending for age 15 and 25, or it's back to school time. I was expecting this category to really take off. It did not. However, some other categories is taking off. I need to find more products to fill in my store, right? So somebody really has to build out. So what has happened in terms of BI in last 10, 15 years is people are curating. I want to have this set of views available. So I want to look at my business in a certain way. You have kind of in one axis, I want to see the time frame. Other axis, I want to see the type of sales. Other axis, the third axis, I want the who is buying that, the demographics of that, right? So you are designing all that. What conversational analytics does that is you do the definition. You say these are the 15 parameters. These are the types of questions that I'm going to ask, right? So now you're taking LLMs, you're feeding the initial questions, but now you're saying, these are the types of questions, apply that to these 15 or 80 different parameters, and tell me what is off, or tell me what is interesting. And slowly, then you can say, okay, this is really taking off. You may want to look here versus look there, right? So
Mhm.
now you are doing those analytics consulting work at scale in the regions that you have not really explored or didn't even think of.
Yeah, outlier analysis becomes just an like give me the
Right.
outlier analysis, and it's abstracting that where we typically have to do custom reports.
Right. And outliers, you're looking at things that you know. Now you're looking at things that you have not even considered. You just have that factor or parameter, and you just kind of, it scans through it and say, it does the trends, and then find out outlier wherever it exists.
Cool. Well, what do you think some gaps are between your ambitions and the realities of today?
Yeah. So it's kind of tools and architecture, right? And just the level of awareness and the adoption across different aspects. I think one challenge that I've seen across teams is they're so uh, and for all good reasons, everyone is trying to do their best to solve their problems, right? To say that is now, don't look there, look here at the shiny object. It's like, I don't have time for it. And that's the balance in art, right? Is how do you make something uh, concrete where you get their attention, you carve out some time to test out, and then roll it out, invest in that. And it's a kind of slow process, right? You need, and there are different kinds of people in organizations for a reason. You need people who can run business as is, people who can kind of give a short-term and medium-term strategy. And then there are people who can kind of think what happens, where is the industry trending in 3 years? And this is the combination of all three coming together. And that's where kind of those technological innovations either fail or succeed.
Mm.
because then the adoption is how can you tell the story? How can you continue to make their execution life easier while having them transport into something where they can do it more effectively?
Yeah, typically you would just be talking to the Horizon 3 people, the people who are kind of laying out the emerging technologies. But what you would like to do is be able to talk to all three horizons at the same time. Like this could actually impact your bottom line today. Yeah, that's interesting. So that's kind of the team. What about the tools?
Yeah, the tools is kind of there's uh, and one thing that has stopped kind of challenge is the ecosystem with the different clouds, right? So the way the cloud structures are set up is you're in one cloud, multi-cloud. People started with that, and you just cannot uh, you cannot have that strategy, right? Because then the data transfer becomes then you're creating a new set of problems. If you do AI in one place, if you do kind of compute in another place, and so on, it's just not set out. So eventually, I think in few years, I think it will have to, and slowly, I think folks are realizing that, and there's a lot of pressure in the from the industry to kind of reduce that friction. Right now, there's some friction created, but eventually that would go away. And once that goes away, then you can seamlessly integrate Redshift with BigQuery and using the Gemini with the OpenAI, right? That's where the power comes in. And right now there are guardrails on purpose.
Yeah. Well, it's still very much an arms race
Exactly.
to who has the most complete solution, and the consumer cannot mix and match
Right.
without tremendous effort. Well, what's the biggest challenge to maintain a competitive edge in your industry?
Yes, I think the biggest challenge I would say is having uh, having a tool or a solution that is really solving the business use case, right? With kind of, and when we talk about AI, right, you could create the self-created AI and say this is the leading edge, and you would create routines that would solve very specific purposes. Now you go to Python and you have everything available, all the tools available, everything available that you can build, or Gemini, you can build anything at scale if you have the right folks. So that kind of building the best AI solution competitive edge is long gone. It's now the best way to gain competitive edge is when you're solving real business use case and doing it in a way where your interaction with the people who are using it is more human. So that's where more effort comes into the UX and saying, what are you designing, right? So I was talking to this my connection, somebody I know, I won't take their name, but essentially they're building a Gen AI solution for their tool. And the idea is that somebody comes in and it gives them, kind of walks them the process of how to create a workflow. So the question there is, how do you keep it engaged? You can give them 15 different workflows to choose from, and it's inundates the user and say, okay, screw that, I'm not using that. How do you make it curated? And that's where a lot of experience from what are you trying to solve, what jobs are to be done, right back to the fact of what has influenced me. And then how do you simplify that? And it has to be as simple that you say, what's the value that you're adding? And that's the value that you're adding is you're simplifying it, and everything else is happening in the back end to give you the right answers. And then you can dive in and get transparencies. And that's how you create the edge, because at that point you cannot be replaced. People are using it with ease, and spending more time thinking about their business than execution.
Yeah, it has to be customer centric. It can't just be a primitive, right? An underlying tech is very difficult to sell. I totally agree. Um, well, um, what how do you approach risk when you're implementing a cutting edge technology?
Yeah, so obviously, as I said, there are risks, right? There are all kinds of risk, and the risk is if you're implementing a new AI for a better forecast, what if the data is not there to even do anything, right? So, question is how do you and goes back to do you understand the business that you're solving, right? You do you understand the use case? And from that perspective, what's the decision? Do you have the right data to make the decision? And how are you going to resolve if there is no data to back your decision, right? So those are the kind of layers that you have to think through. And also then kind of from a the other risk is also, as I mentioned, from a change management. How do you de-risk? How do you ensure that every layer of the organization is incented? You're solving their challenges, and it's just not a 3 year down the project. It is something that you put in front of them, get their input, and revamp, right? So kind of one thing that I've learned through my experiences, if you build a product and say this is the best product in town and this is the best solution you can have, the moment the user uses is like, this sucks. What do you do from there? So when you're building a product, it has to be iterative approach, and you put something out there, fail fast, right? Do you kind of say, okay, what doesn't work? How do we make it better? What doesn't work? How do you make it modular? How do you configure it? And then kind of continue building that. It's not one and done.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think keeping a common thread here is to keep an eye on the user, and then just make sure you're not biting off more than you can chew. Like, don't do it alone.
Right.
Um, well, what advice can you share for connecting the technology roadmap with your overall business strategy? Like, how do you guys do your planning, and how do you make sure that where you want to go and your roadmap are all aligned?
Right. So, and that's a very important question, right? I think when Gen AI was the big thing when it first came up from Open AI, right? Chat GPT was the buzz. Everyone wanted to kind of say, okay, now this is it. This is either you are using this or it's end of the world. There's a lot of pressures from that, but I think you have to understand what's the underlying business problem that you're trying to solve. You have to keep that test out, right? So you have to say, what are my test modules? How do you test? Ensure that you're on the right strategy. Use the feedback from the field, and then be ready to pivot as it comes along, right? So if you definitely have to create a kind of a year, 2 year, 3 year vision of where you are headed to go, but be ready to kind of provide inputs of how you're going to change or adapt as you're going along that. And that becomes very important as you're thinking about your strategy, uh, your perspective, and how you are going to sell it to your customers.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you guys typically do like a quarterly planning or annual planning, or how
Yeah.
how do you guys?
It starts with the annual planning, right? So when you're kind of figuring out the budget, but then you kind of say, okay, this is our plan for a year and 2 year, because when we are building out the vision, it's a year, 2 year, and 3 year where we want to be, and this is more kind of. But then every quarter you have to come back and say, okay, what did we what did we assign for that? What were the lessons learned, and how does it change our course for next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and 2 years? Right. So you have to kind of continuously inform your strategy to be relevant. Otherwise, you'll be kind of aiming somewhere and building something else.
Yeah, I agree. I'm seeing a lot of trends with time compression, like having a 1 year goal, but then really drilling it down into like 12 weeks. A 12-week plan. Like our EOS friends are really doubling down on that. And there's a popular book out, recent book called 12-Week Year, really kind of focusing on the 12. And in software development, we always had like sprints, and, we're very time compressed. And so I'm seeing a lot of folks revamp their annual planning for something that draws a little more urgency um, to the tighter time window.
Right. That definitely, I think that uh, the and as I was talking about, when we build products, right, it's important to get feedback. And same thing with strategy planning is you have to say, okay, what did we learn? What did we learn from the different aspects, the sales, operations, product? and customer side, and let's take those inputs and see if that those still matches with our assumptions that we made at that time.
Right. Well, what lessons have you learned from tech initiatives that failed to deliver expected value?
Yeah, I've had my share of failures, right? It's kind of that's one thing that I live by is if you have to fail, fail fast, and that's something that we do. One thing I would say is if you're thinking of a business, kind of a new revenue or anything new, it has to be profitable, even in a prototype or you're doing something. Only then you can scale, right? If you say that we'll build it and then we'll become profitable, that does not work. So you have to think about the whole ecosystem as you're building out, even though in a smaller scale. And then once you have built that out, otherwise you're building one component without knowing what the other, how would it other come together. So in my kind of that's something that I've learned is don't invest too much time on one concept. Test it out with the people who are using it, others, and get their input. And then kind of one thing else that I would say is empower the team to make the right thing. So you hire people for their skill set, use them for that, right? So you have to sell your vision. You just can't tell them do this, go and do this because that's the vision. You have to share the vision, kind of empower them to say, okay, how do they contribute to the vision? And it becomes a joint, and everyone is excited for it.
Yeah, I've heard just recently checking out this Three Laws of Performance book, and one of the things they talk about is um, your vision is future based language. Like people perform their best when they use future based language rather than descriptive language about the current. And that your vision, like in order to create that feature based language, really it should be a collaborative effort with the team. So what is the future that we can all collectively envision, so that it's not because what you alone think the future could be is going to be far less than what a group of people might think the future could be, and allowing those aspirations of the entire group to set the vision is really powerful.
Yeah,
So even not thinking that as a leader you have to set all the vision, you can ask the question, like, what is the future that we want to create together?
definitely, totally agree. I think that has helped me quite a bit in kind of inspiring people as well as kind of getting the best out of them, challenging the team and creating the best.
Yeah. Well, and this question will go right along with that. How do you cultivate a culture of innovation and fluency within your organization?
Yeah, so I think going back to right, empowering the team, and then ensuring that with how the technology is shifting, you have to ensure that they are set up in where they are learning and growing as well, right? So it's just not what you have done, what you know is what you need to learn, and learning happens in different aspects, right? The one best way that in my experience is when you're talking to your customers and their challenges. Those are the best way to kind of understand what they are going through, what their challenges, and as a provider what you're trying to solve. And and then the other aspect, obviously, giving them some kind of uh, a learning system, whether whoever and everyone has a different style, and ensuring just don't assign 5 courses to everyone in your team. That does not work. But inspiring them that let's try something else. Let's kind of experiment within a compound, right? There's kind of business has to be run as well, but giving them the space to grow and that growth mindset.
Yeah, that's cool. Are there any practical ways that you've been able to apply that?
Yeah, so I think one of the key thing that we have done is create a. So as a group, we had a lot of challenges that we 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 cannot solve right away as a feature or a product, right? So we have kind of a big backlog. So we kind of created a hackathon. It's like, okay, let's take some time off X hours in this 2 week period and go for it, right? These other set of problems or any other problems that you may have been thinking about, and let's go and find a solution. And we found that as first, it was very engaging. People of facts of life, even if they're not programming, salespeople they have their challenges. They would come in, partner with others. So it kind of helps with culture, but then also helps them from problem mindset, right? So what are we doing? Get them involved, more involved into what the company is trying to do, and how can they add more value.
Yeah, really cool. Cool. Well, what advice or shared experience would you give to peers that are beginning their, their career journey, their sales journey, or even their digital transformation journey?
Yeah, so I would say, kind of as you're going through that find a partner, or you already have a team who understands your business needs, right? So transformation for the sake of transformation does not work. Uh, Transformation is a long journey. You need to be totally bought in. It's not kind of you press a button and it's done. You need to understand uh, what all components need to change, which will have biggest impact, what will be the kind of the wave effect, because everything will get impacted. Don't lose patience, because things will go wrong, but then in the longer run, you'll be in much better position and more capabilities and more scale.
Yeah, really cool. Well, cool. If people like what you've had to share today, how should they connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is best way to connect. Uh, my Aditya Rastogi. I don't know if or uh, yeah, that would be the best way. Find me on
Okay.
LinkedIn.
We'll make sure that gets in the show notes. Yeah. Awesome. Well, cool. It's been really great catching up with you and hearing about your journey and the innovations you're engaged with. And I just really appreciate your time and being on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Benjamin. It was fun.